my lovelies, this is Bea Harper from supermarcy.com, long time no see, and I come to you once again with another movie review. Today I'm going to be looking at Scott Cooper's Black Mass, starring Johnny Depp, Benedict Cumberbatch, Joel Edgerton, Kevin Bacon, Dakota Johnson, and a whole lot of people. Okay, so a lot of you have probably heard by this point of the exemplary performance turned in by Johnny Depp, and wouldn't you know it, I completely agree with them. If anybody was waiting for a comeback for Johnny Depp, this is it. This is his movie through and through, and it just goes to show that when you give Johnny Depp the right sort of material and the appropriate direction, he can just knock it out of the park. His portrayal of Whitey Bulger is among one of the most repulsive and morally reprehensible human beings you have ever seen on film in 2015, and dare I say, in film history in general. This is Johnny Depp's movie, make no mistake about it, and even though it's got itself a wonderful cast, and may I also say that the Bostonian accents are on point in this movie. This is a film about the Boston crime underworld, and it's just... It is one of those films that it may not necessarily be regarded as a classic because, I'll get into why a little bit later, but make no mistake, this is a performance-driven movie, and it's got such a great attention to detail for the time period and the law enforcement and what was going on in this particular time in history. So just allow me to get out the positives first. So obviously, Johnny Depp, this is one of his best performances he has ever done, mark my words. He just completely disappears into the character, and even though he is wearing a whole lot of makeup, and wearing makeup is nothing he's a stranger to by this point, it's for the right reasons. When you see his portrayal of Whitey Bulger, you do not see Johnny Depp. You see a repugnant individual who is willing to do almost anything, no, not almost anything, everything it would take to get on top. He starts out as a small-time gangster and he works himself up the ladder by bribing and intimidating and seducing or what have you in order to be the top dog. And Whitey Bulger is just so terrifying. Granted, I don't know too much about the actual case itself, even though I've done a little bit of research in preparation for this review, but Whitey Bulger has done some mean fucking shit. And when you read up about it, it's awe-inspiring that a human being can do this. Well, then again, we live in a world that is torn apart by war and famine and other wonderful parts of bad human behaviour. But to see Johnny Depp disappear completely into a role like this, it is so refreshing to see. After all the Tim Burton stuff, after Alice in Wonderland and all these crazy quirky roles that he's so well known for these days, it's just a welcome change. And if he does not get a nomination for his performance in this movie, I am going to be very surprised. Well, maybe not surprised in the sense that the Academy is very unfair and quite biased when it comes to this sort of stuff, but if he does not get a single mention at all in the nominations whatsoever, I'm not going to be happy. I'm not going to be very happy at all. So, okay, with that out of the way, just let me give you the main reasons as to why Black Mass, despite being quite good, with wonderful performances, still does not quite live up to, say, something by Scorsese. Okay, so for all of its wonderful attention to detail and the love and care that has been put into this movie by Scott Cooper and company, it feels very procedural. When I say procedural, I don't mean just flat out boring, so to say, but when you are making a gangster movie, you should take your time with it. You should take the opportunity to really get into the mindsets of these characters and the actions that they commit. Look no further than, say, Goodfellas, directed by Martin Scorsese, which still remains one of the finest gangster movies ever made. Why was it so successful? Well, first and foremost, it was a film about Henry Hill as a man. Of course, every single dastardly deed that he took part in or he was privy to, that was still heavily featured in this movie, but it was because of Ray Liotta's performance and the way he is integrated into the plot. with Black Mass, it just feels like a very clinical approach to a crime movie. You have a crime being committed, you have Whitey Bulger coming into contact with the law enforcement and the deal that he strikes up with them, but it doesn't feel personal. It feels like you're outside looking in rather than being swept up into the chaos, you know? And that's not to say that the story is awful, but it's just merely serviceable. Okay, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but once again, when it comes to dealing with a real-life thing such as this, and with all these unimaginable personalities on the big screen, you've got to make sure you find a creative anchor. You've got to find a way to get the audience into your corner. If not into your corner, then like get them swept up into what's going on here. Get them like really, really tense and cautious about what Whitey Bulger does, and just make them feel like a part of the story, include them. And that's what Black Mass somewhat fails to do. And it is such a shame, because if it was able to be more epic in scope and take the time to tell a truly epic crime story, this could have been another one of those classics. And another criticism I have to level at this film is that it tends to jump way too much in terms of time frame. 1 minute you're in like one time period and you're just starting to get a hold of to what's going on, and then it'll go flash forward or flash back to another epoch. And you're thinking, well, wait a minute, just slow down a bit. Let me see what is going on and let me invest myself into what's happening here. Maybe that was simply because Scott Cooper didn't want to outstay the welcome of his movie, but once again, when you're making a crime epic about a real-life individual who did all these terrible, terrible things, don't be afraid to sort of, you know, indulge, or if not indulge, then make an effort to tell more of the story, because if you have a fantastic cast such as this, the audience is going to be watching them. The audience is going to be paying attention to this story, and the audience is going to be committing to what's going on here. So I feel Black Mass lets itself down on its own terms rather than sort of any sort of outside issue. Is there anything else I can really say about this film? Not really. Once again, this is one of Depp's finest hours, and I'm not going to lie, I am one of those people who will occasionally lower my blade at Depp, but I've never hated him as an actor. I think he is one of the better ones out there. And it's just a pleasure to see him finally break free of the shackles that he has confined himself to all this time and do something so dramatically different. So in saying that, I give Black Mass a 3 out of 5, a fairly solid score. But once again, it is let down by the own limitations it has placed upon itself when it didn't need to be. So yeah, thank you very much for listening to me, guys, and as usual, I shall see you in the next video. Bye bye for now.